History remembers the kings, warriors, and empires that conquered the world and changed it through war and power. But the most haunting stories in human history are the ones who rose to great heights, built amazing things, and then vanished. Here are some of the most vanished civilizations. The Indus Valley civilization, one of the first and most advanced societies in history. The Harappan people built cities along the fertile banks of the Indus River in what is now Pakistan and northwest India more than 4,000 years ago. These cities were unlike anything the world had ever seen. Mohenjo-daro and Harappa were works of art in design. They were built in perfect grids and had multi-story brick houses, public baths, and even private bathrooms that were all connected to a citywide drainage system. Modern engineers are still amazed by how well they planned their cities. The Indus left behind a mystery that still exists today: their writing. There are symbols of a script that hasn't been figured out on thousands of seals and tablets. We don't know what they called themselves, what gods they prayed to, or how they saw the world. Those quiet symbols keep their whole identity hidden. Then, around 1900 BCE, their cities started to fall apart. Streets were empty, trade stopped, and once busy centers of life fell silent. But there were no signs of an invasion, like burned buildings or battle scars. It looks like nature itself has turned against them. The rivers that fed their farms started to dry up. Geological research shows that changes in the monsoon and tectonic activity may have changed the course of the powerful Sarasvati River or made it weaker, cutting off their water supply. Farming fell apart, food became scarce, and over time, the people moved east, leaving their big cities behind. The Harappans didn't just disappear. They broke up into smaller rural communities, and over time, their legacy faded away. The ruins, the drains, and the unreadable marks of the civilization that used to lead the world in peace and planning are all that is left. 1,000 years later, on a different continent, another great civilization would write its own chapter in human history and then lose it. The jungles of what are now Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras were home to the Maya civilization of Central America. The Maya built an empire of science, architecture, and art between 250 and 900 CE. Their pyramids stood out from the trees like mountains. Their astronomers mapped the stars with amazing accuracy and predicted solar eclipses hundreds of years in advance. They made a written language by carving complicated hieroglyphs into stone, and they wrote down their dynasties, wars, and rituals. They knew how to do math, came up with the idea of zero, and made one of the most accurate calendars in history. The Maya were poets, builders, and thinkers, but they were also people, and people can go too far, even when they're smart. Their world started to break apart in the 9th century. Their numbers had grown so much that the land that fed them was having trouble keeping up. They cut down huge areas of rainforest to make room for more farms. But the thin tropical soil wore away quickly, turning fertile land into barren land. After that, the droughts came. Lake beds and tree rings show that there were a number of terrible dry spells between 800 and 1000 CE. Their crops died because it didn't rain. Cities started to fight over fewer and fewer resources. After that came war, hunger, and disease. The great city-states of the southern lowlands, Tikal, Copan, and Palenque, stopped talking one by one. The jungle took back their temples. Vines and roots covered up stone carvings of gods and kings. By the time Spanish explorers got there, hundreds of years later, nature had already destroyed the Maya's biggest cities. But, like the Indus, the Maya didn't completely disappear. Their descendants still live in Guatemala, Mexico, and Belize, where they speak Mayan languages, follow old customs, and remember their ancestors. The civilization fell apart, but its spirit lived on. The ancestral Puebloans, also known as the Anasazi, built cities and then disappeared in the deserts and mesas of the American Southwest. From 900 to 1300 CE, these people carved whole towns into cliffs and built huge stone structures like Chaco Canyon and Mesa Verde. Some buildings had hundreds of rooms, walls that went up several stories, and ceremonial rooms called kivas. Roads stretched for miles through the desert, connecting settlements across vast distances. They were great builders, astronomers, and traders. They traded things like turquoise, shells, and even rare birds with people from far away. But around the late 1200s, their world too began to crumble. Tree ring data reveals a 23-year dry spell known as the Great Drought. Crops failed, food became scarce, and conflict likely broke out among communities competing for survival. Slowly, people abandoned their stone cities and migrated south and east, forming the ancestors of modern Hopi, Zuni, and Pueblo tribes.